What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to everybody's favorite podcast when it comes to energy drink reviews and performance talks. We are the Bev Boys. On the Bev Boys, we have myself. I am Brian.
Christian.
And we're the boys that love the beverages themselves. Got a good one today. It's just a little staff episode, so it's just the boys kind of hanging out in here and getting to talk and having maybe just have some fun and maybe some pop top and talk some shop.
As per usual, that's right. I'm not gonna lie, I got a drink. It's rare that I have a drink where I'm not to say I'm not looking forward to it, but I don't have super high expectations for it, but I feel like I gotta try it. Another Clubhouse special here in Des Moines. Shout out Scuba Steve. I got an Alani, but it's a Hawaiian shaved ice flavor. Now, I will say I'm a little bit bigger of a fan of some of their flavors than Brian is, but even this one just screams very like arbitrary, just like
Sugar.
General sweet fruit flavor. But I got to give it a try. Yeah, shaved ice. Yeah, it's probably going to be very just like general sweet, but
we've talked about it.
I do it for you guys.
We've talked about it time and time again. Like Alani, the sour peach drinks used to be great. It was an unreal flavor. I used to drink it all the time. And when they changed their branding from like the white with the like turquoise to these like overly like kind of predatory
marketing cans.
They just went to like basically here's very sweet and then here's a hint of apple, or here's very sweet with a hint of lime. They're like LaCroix, but just like sugary.
Yeah, a couple sips in, that's what I'm getting. I'm almost even getting like, it's like just sweet and almost like a hint of coconut, which I'm not a huge fan of coconut in energy drinks, to be honest with you.
I think the only one that I've ever liked was, of course, Red Bull with the coconut berry. But that one was I feel like that's a unicorn energy drink where they just found the right mix.
Right. I like they just came out, or I don't know if they just came out with one or if I just tried it. We had a watermelon flavor, and I thought that one was pretty solid. But
for Alani?
Yeah, it was like a watermelon twist. But yeah, this one almost tastes similar to like, I mean, we've had the cherry one. I know you're not a fan of that. It's like that with like a hint of coconut. It's
almost great. Like the old like Gorilla Mind, like tiger's blood, but sweet.
Yes, very, very sweet.
Yeah, that sounds like shit mixed with flavor.
Yeah, it's not great, but
the one I would probably try and maybe not hate. I've heard a ton of people liked the Witch's Brew.
Yeah, that was like a Halloween special one, right?
Yeah. I don't like caramel, especially in an energy drink. That sounds disgusting, but maybe the strawberry sunrise, like that might be something that I would probably like maybe not hate. Strawberry, although it's probably going to be really sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I have an oldie but a goodie here. And it's mainly because we've kind of been hating on everybody doing this flavor for a little while. And we used to hate a little bit on everybody doing orange cream. And I started drinking some more orange creams and I realized, wow, it is pretty good. Now, it's definitely no raspberry cream. Love raspberry cream. I've just said cream a bunch, so I'm going to move on from that. But a flavor that we've also seen just occur. It's starting to become almost like a fruit punch or a blue raz. Can you take a guess? Everybody's got one.
Like a lime one?
It does have lime in it.
Cherry lime. Oh, yep. A little bomb pop action. A little America pop.
America pop. Like I said, everybody's got the cherry lime blue raz kind of flavor. The only one was that C4, which was cherry berry limeade or something like that. That was the only one that I've had that was like, oh, it's a different flavor. It actually
Mhm.
tastes like the individual flavors coming together. But that kind of kickstarted everything off. So, Gabe Mason, thank you for sharing that C4 with us, that C4 Smart Energy, which kind of got me back on this to start rifling through some old drinks and give them another shot. Now, I will say there's one thing about the Ghost Energy America Pop, though, is it literally smells like a melted bomb pop in the can, which I don't think is a bad thing.
It's nostalgic.
Yeah, it's still not bad. That one still hits. Ghost does a really good job of making an energy drink, man.
Speaking of ghosts, we've got some news. I know we've been waiting a long time for this A&W root beer flavor to finally come to fruition, and looks like we have an official release date. So looks like they're going to roll it out at an event on August 6th. It is August 1st now, which is crazy to think about. And
Insane.
then end of the month, nationwide rollout, end of the month, August 31st. So we are T-minus 30 days until we get that Ghost A&W. So really looking forward to that. I know you are too.
Which the cool thing about this is that it's nationwide August 31st. So there is a chance. So you're saying there's a chance. Every time they do this, it starts to appear everywhere before the 31st. You know what I mean? It
Mm-hmm.
gets like sprinkled in. They did this with the grape crayon, the Welch's. They did this with the iced tea lemonade when everyone was like, where do you get it? And it just started kind of showing up in Circle K's or at a vitamin shop, things like that. My guess is that we get our hands on this before it gets the full nationwide rollout. And then, unfortunately, what else happens? It's just like the 7 Up. The first week, you can get your hands on it every single day, and then it's gone for a month. And then they kind of get the restock kind of going, everything. But my full plan is if I see 12 of them, I am getting 12 of them. I don't care if I don't like them yet or not. It's A&W root beer. I need to make sure we have one for the show. And if I get 5 and it's Friday and we record on Saturdays and Sundays,
You might have
I
one
don't
left.
I don't know if I have one
Might.
left. Yeah, I might. Because anyone who knows us knows we're a big fan of root beer, and we've been talking about it on the show for just ages about
Mm-hmm.
root beer flavor, root beer flavor. The Bum Energy root beer got fantastic review from us. We both love the Gorilla Mind root beer, which is also good. And this is A&W root beer. The only
Mm-hmm.
thing that could maybe be better is if they did the Culver's root beer.
Oh yeah, that's another question. I think. Do you think they sell it? You think they sell it inside like the actual A&W restaurants? I know there's not a lot of them left. I feel like.
I feel like at a certain, like, I don't know if they'll put it on the fountain, but I could see them like having like a little mini cooler. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The other thing is I guarantee, like, people are going to start to do some cool things with this. They're going to make energy drink root beer floats,
Yeah, that would be
which
diabolical.
that might be how we review this. Um, I I think they could. There's how many? Do you know? Are you looking up how many A&Ws there are left?
Yes.
30.
Well, I feel like I never see them. There was actually one in the town where I went to college, Indianola.
There was one
Like a
in
drive-through and everything.
There was one in my parents' hometown.
It
You said a great hot dog.
It says there's over 900 locations in 16 countries with 460 in the US. Where are they?
Still?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised.
Dude, they did have a great burger too.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like mostly, I'm assuming it's mostly concentrated in a certain part of the country. Okay, here we go.
I was gonna say I'm on the locations for the website.
Oh yeah.
The closest one is 127 miles away from me in Darlington, South Carolina.
Okay. There's actually a decent amount in Iowa. Here's the thing: is there's like a lot of them are in like these. I guess it's tough to say smaller towns because Iowa's a lot of small towns, but there's only one in Des Moines, and then you got like Indianola, small town, Forest City, like all these like kind of like small college towns, Sioux City, Spirit Lake. Okay.
They're never in. I went to this one that's 258 miles away, Moorhead,
Really?
Kentucky. In Moorhead, Kentucky. Yeah. I feel like there's got to be like a bunch in Wisconsin. Oh
Damn,
yeah,
I guess they're just sneaky.
there's a good couple in Wisconsin. We got Ripon, Waupun, Princeton, Fond du Lac, Oshkosh, Winneconne, Neenah, Watoma, Neenah, Portage. There's two in Neenah. Also, just reading this, I think that like the modern person would probably have an aneurysm reading like half of the towns in Wisconsin's names. That's Ripon, Waupun, Fond du Lac, Oshkosh, Winneconne, Neenah, Watoma.
God, I did
People,
not expect to just be cruising through where A&W is in every single state. I gotta close this window. This is getting out of hand.
dude, I know. Now I really want an A&W, like a burger and a root beer float.
But yeah, A&W Rip Your Ghost coming at the end of this month, so we're super stoked for that.
It's been a long time coming, which hopefully this means that Ghost starts to do the bum energy route, is my hope. We start to see a little bit more of these like soda flavors or classics. And if A&W goes big, I imagine one flavor that we've been begging for since they got purchased. Please give us Dr. Pepper. I'll never drink anything else in my entire life. Just please give us Dr. Pepper. Please give us Dr. Pepper. Please give us Dr. Pepper.
Yes, that would be ideal.
But enough about energy drinks and just energy drinks, mainly enough about A&W. Got a couple fun topics for us today.
Yeah, I'm gonna start this one off potentially hot. Could be turn into more of a rant than an actual discussion, but
Let's do it.
I was thinking about, so I'll just call this training systems, and you could call this like certification systems, things like that. I'm thinking anything from PRI to FRC to like RPR to any system where you can take a course, learn about how the system works, how it pertains to training. And I don't necessarily have an issue. I honestly think they're good all in all. Like, it's good to learn about all these different things and how they can fit into your training and into your context. What I do have a problem with is when people, and I get it because it's people selling them and this is how they make their money, so I guess I can't fault them, but like I see a lot of that stuff as like, okay, the salt, this, like you said, it's the salt and pepper on top of the meal. It's a little bit of like supplementary stuff that you can add into your training or into your prep work. But it's when people start to sell that stuff as this is the whole like spectrum of training and this is like the golden key and we don't need to look anything outside of that. And I guess like to sell that, you do have to be that confident in your product. But I was just talking about that with Rooney the other day. I was like, I don't think I could ever like do that because I don't think I could ever get myself to believe that like one way of doing things is the best way, and I never think outside of that. Like I just couldn't convince myself of that. So I guess that's just my way of bitching that I'm not making lots of money like all these people that are selling these courses.
I think I could sell like a thought process, but not the answer key.
Yeah, like I think I could see myself doing a course someday, like on a topic that I felt like I knew
Passionate
a
about.
lot of. Yeah, like you've done like the speed concepts course, like that's You're not selling something that's like I mean, speed concepts. It's not, oh, this is the only way to train.
Yeah, and I like even in there. So I guess I can use that one as an example. Like when I talked about like framing like your week or like planning it out and like the actual cycles, I talked about like three different variations of what you can do, of even like to the day of like stacking back to back high days, and just like this is stuff to look for when you're coaching it. This is, typically like your good ranges that you should want to stay in when it's, this or that or the other, and what the difference is, like RSA versus speed endurance. Where do those matter? Like you kind of replace RSA with speed endurance and track, and vice versa when you go to court sports and field sports. But what the big thing was that it wasn't like, here's how I train and that's how you'd have to train too. I don't want
Mm,
that. I feel like that's like telling, maybe this is a little bit of an exaggeration, but that's telling an artist like, here's a fucking paint by numbers. Now go make what I told you to.
mm,
Like in a certain way, every coach has to coach the way that they are comfortable, and it's their program. That's what you're paid for. If everything was a simple standard answer, we wouldn't have jobs. And I think that's pretty big, that like is often like forgotten about. So when you get so tribalistic in nature of like, well, we always do PRI. We have to. We're a PRI. I'm a PRI guy. I'm an FRC guy. I'm an RPR guy. I'm a triphasic guy. Whatever it may be. So like on paper, like when you say that, like I get like everyone wants to have an identity. And when I first started as a young coach, I wanted to be a quote unquote speed guy because I just loved it. But now, like I've gotten so akin to, it's way better to not have the identity, and it feels more fun.
mm,
Even, and then the identity kind of gets like given to you in a sense. But overall, it's like it's way more fun to just like, yeah, I can do that. Like, yeah, we could. Like, it's not a big deal. We don't have to, but we can. That kind of thing is just so, I think, yields better results. It also doesn't let you be pigeonholed into whatever it is. One of the greatest things is when I go to like a conference and we start talking about, training or whatever with coaches that and that you meet, and they're like, "Well, you're a blank guy, right?" And you're like, no, like we do it a little bit, but it's not that, like they try to get you pigeonholed, and maybe not out of like malice or anything, but they try to get you pigeonholed so they can figure you out a little easier. And you're like, nah, actually, not really. Like
mm.
that's great, but I think it comes from a sense of like belonging.
I think it's that, and it's also too. I think there's this fallacy that we have where like there's so much information out there, and like we try to put it in this system, in this box, to like better like harness it, to be like, okay, I feel like I have a better grasp of this, so I feel like this has to go here, this has to go here, when this happens I do this. So, and to an extent, like obviously like building a system and how you program, how you make training decisions, I think that is useful and important, and like over time you should probably build that. But I think it also has to be very adaptive and flexible. And once you kind of say like, okay, this is the way, and I'm not gonna keep looking for things that can improve on that, improve on my program, improve on my process, that's where people get stuck. And I also think I don't want this to get misconstrued as like, because I do think a lot of these like quote unquote like systems or like certifications, they often get like shit on without people actually like trying to actually learn about them. Like you might be like, oh, you might see something at first glance and be like, ah, yeah, that's kind of eyewash. But I do think it's important to actually like learn about it, and then you can actually see what you think about it. Because then there's probably at least a couple things you can take. Be like, oh, like I actually really like this for a warm up, or I really like this for the end of my workout, or for like a recovery day or something like that. Because like I said, it's usually those systems like sell for a reason. It's because they there is something, whether it's RPR, you see the stretch test before and after, like, is it actually making like long-term changes in tissue? I don't know, but like, can it make people feel better in the immediate sense in order to train harder that day, and then you get what you want out of it at the end of in the end? Okay, then that can have utility. It can be useful. So I think it's important to, and obviously like cost is a factor because a lot of these things cost money. Some of them are more expensive than others, but I do think it's good to at least like dive into it and be like, okay, see what you actually think about that thing instead of just, because a lot of times it's easy to look at those things or hear people that you're close to and they'll be like, like it's eyewash, this and that, and you'd be like, oh yeah, it's eyewash, but you got to know what you actually think about those things.
I think one of the other ones that's like that really pisses me off is like there can be valuable information in a sense, but how much can you learn? And a lot of these are done in the same format, so but how much can you really learn over like a weekend seminar? Even if you're there for 2 10-hour sessions. Like I'll be honest with you, I think one of the most useless ones is USA weightlifting course. Yes, they teach you how to correct the form on an Olympic lift. They don't they're not giving you, just because you know how to, that's two lifts or two sub variations or two lifts and their sub variations, whatever it may be. Because you took that weekend course, you now are as qualified as any other sports performance coach in the country. That's where I'm like, I typically draw the line, because someone will take one of those courses, and I'm using USAW as an example, but they'll take one of those courses and like, I got it all figured out. Like it took you 2 days to figure out everything that we've had to study and work, and we talk like this on a fucking Saturday and a Sunday because we love continuing education. But think of the countless hours that we have spent reading and learning and applying and testing over and over and over again. And someone's like, wow, I took a USAW, we're like the same thing. Maybe that's just me being very like pessimistic and like an asshole of a person, but it's like, there's no fucking way, man. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can correct a clean and you know what to look for on the first pull. Like, congratulations. How do you program that for 4 weeks straight? You know what I mean? Like, congratulations. You are now as valuable as the most common intern.
Yeah. I think that just even comes down to like two different types of people. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, I thought I think at one point I thought I would get to a point like where I had actually felt like I knew a little bit of something, but I feel like the more I do like performance, like obviously like I think my skills are like improving over time, but I'm like, damn, I thought I'd get to a point where I feel like I kind of had stuff figured out. I feel like I'm like more on the, we talk about the Dunning-Kruger effect. Like I've definitely peaked on Mount Stupid, and now I feel like that valley of despair. That's been like forever, and I was like, damn, I feel like I thought I would get to a point where I actually felt like I knew something, but maybe I just gotta keep going. I think that's just two different types of people. Like maybe they're still in that peak of Mount Stupid, and they haven't reached that like valley of despair where they realize like, oh shit, like I actually don't know a whole lot. Or maybe it's just some people where it's like they want to like feel like they've like figured it out versus people that like know that there's like enough stuff out there that they'll never truly be able to know it all and consume it all. So you just kind of have to like accept the fact that like, hey, like I know what I know and like this is what I'm working with, but I have to continually get better, and I like don't, you never fully have it figured out, is I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't know if
I
you feel
think so.
differently, but I feel like you never fully have it figured out in all aspects at least.
I 100% agree. You're right. I think there is like two types of people, of like the ones who are like, okay, there's probably some information that I can better apply, and I'll go there and gather this information. And then there's you know, the quote unquote moral masturbators. Shout out Caleb Hammer for the one of the best insults ever. but it's the people who just go and collect 15 certifications to say they have all these. And that's why they are better and they know more. So I think those types of things are very limited in their application outside of a little bit of information. But I just I think I just find it very hard to believe. Like even the USATF course, the USATF level 1, it was a weekend certification, and you had to go to class, and we did it online for I think it was 4 hours a day. In 8 hours, I would essentially, in the USATF size, learn to become a track coach. And for me, I was just like, number one, it was very general of, hey, distance runners run longer distances, sprinters need to train faster, very simplistic stuff. Like you could probably enough to get a high school coach roughly in the area to not mess it up. But like when you think about training higher level athletes and things like that, I don't know if much of it was new information or even applicable. And I get they need to make it approachable for people who want to get into this kind of stuff, and that's fine. But at a certain point, it's like maybe there's a test out qualification, and there is like, I don't get why a lot of these don't go to more of like an e-learning type of thing where it's like, this might take 4 months, this might take 3 months. And there's, 128 study hours of content and an exam at the end of it, whatever it may be. But why not go more in depth and provide more structure? And do you think it's part of the world itself now to where it's like, we want it now, this instant gratification, and it's less about learning the information and more about having the letters behind the name. So you want to do that, or selling a system. And this is how you're supposed to train, the only way that you can train. So that's the more important thing. Like you're going to learn a little bit to apply the system. And then you're going to tell 5 people to then, like pyramid scheme it, versus we want to give you all this information that you can do with it as you please. And the most important thing is that you learn from it, whether you learn a little or learn a lot, but we need you to retain the knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. If I run a weekend course, I can do 52 courses in a year. If I run a traditional, like if I do a 16-week course like they do in like a college semester, I can only do 3 a year. So if I'm looking to make the most money, like it's also too like it's tougher to sell people on,
Education.
if you're gonna do a course that's longer, you're gonna charge more. People are gonna be like, oh, it's too expensive. Oh, it's too long. Like I want to get I just want to get it done with. So I think that's probably the biggest part. Obviously, like the instant gratification obviously plays into it, but when you can just simply just make more money by doing weekend courses because you can do more of them, probably get more people to sign up because it's going to be like a lower price point versus I think it's Prescript that does like a more of a like elongated course, like a 12 to 16-week course, and it's obviously more expensive because it's a lot longer, but like more of like the college style where they're having like lectures and whatnot on a weekly basis. And even then, like I feel like college, depending on, let's say like most colleges will run on semesters. So you're taking classes for 16 weeks at a time. Like even then, like there's some classes where it's like you're just kind of like getting the hang of it, and then by the time that happens, it's like over. I think a lot of that stuff takes more, at least for me, maybe I'm just a slow learner. A lot of that stuff takes more time, and you can't really put a timeline on it necessarily.
But say you did. Right, we have 16 weeks. Typically, you meet 2 to 3 times a week, depending on the college course. So we're probably looking at 3 hours a week, right? And whether it be a 50-minute class or 2-hour-and-a-half classes on the lectures, you kind of do that. And we multiply that times 16, we have somewhere between 50 to 70 hours. Yeah. If you build a course that's self-paced in 50 to 70 hours, or even 70 to 90, because you'll have the extra study materials that you can provide, whether it be sheets and whatnot that somebody just has to read through themselves. But you say you have 50 to 70 hours of like video content and lecturing and talking about this stuff. Okay, you do that. And it's not necessarily a cohort where you're all meeting all the time. Maybe you have a message board and it's somewhere that people can discuss things, but it's not necessarily actioned in a sense. Is that not more valuable for more information and retainment of information, which is probably the hopefully the most important thing? And if you talk about like the money, is that not better? Because now that's residual. Once it's been made, you don't have to do 52 weeks. You could sell a course every single day, 365 days a year, in a sense, if you pump out
You're
the
talking
content.
that opposed to like a weekend certification?
Yeah. Yeah. But I
I
think that's
think
because it's
so.
less invasive. Like you can go up there and bullshit for, 10 hours a day.
Yeah, I think there's pros and cons to both, right? Like I think more exposures, like obviously you're getting a lot when you're doing the two days, 10 hours a day, you're getting a lot of density. You can relate this back to training versus you're getting a lot of density versus if you do the 16-week thing, you're getting less density but a lot more frequency. And to me, I feel like learning is a lot more about like frequency. Like, I mean, what they tell you this in school, like cramming. We've all probably crammed before, but like cramming isn't as effective as like doing a little bit of studying. Like 10 hours of 10 hours of study 2 days before the test isn't as effective as 30 to 45 minutes the month leading up every day leading up to the test. Like it's just that frequency aspect is a little bit more important for learning. Now, the thing with the 2 day, I guess, is that it's live, so it can take one. Yes, you can bullshit, but it's also like you can cater a little bit more to the people that are actually there, make it a little bit more individualized. But I do agree with like what you're saying. Like I think I don't know. I feel like if from the couple courses I've done, like I'm like waxed by the end of the day. I'm just like I can't like I mean I struggled to like focus in like when we had a class that was like 2 hours long. So I
Yeah.
like an hour. I don't know. I'm like an
Dedicate a
hour to
little
an
bit of
hour and a
time.
half. Yeah, I'd like to do that like more frequently rather than like, all right, let me just mega dose my learning every once in a while. I'd rather just do a little bit every day,
That's
personally.
that's that's kind of where I'm at, and I kind of just like I said, I just see it as it's a little bit of a cop out. It's like, okay, I do 52 weeks and I do 52 seminars, right? If we just go that model, you could have 4 hours, 8 hours of content, and then stretch it because you're going to fill it in with, hey, we're going to do a discussion for an hour.
Mm.
So all these people just paid to show up, feel like they did something, pat each other on the back, and you hand them a piece of paper that more than likely most of the time means nothing, maybe zero point 0.6 CEUs for their recertification. And then you're like, sick, thanks for the $800, and you walk out. Versus like, how much of that do you think is almost like charlatans in a sense, where they're going to try and sell you something, so you show up and do it, and they don't care whether you use it or not. But now you have this value that you now hold because you have this piece of paper and a couple letters, because you have FRC or PRI. And I'm just, not to say like they are intrinsically bad, I'm just using them because they're very popular names in the space. um, versus
Yeah, I don't.
like you put them through a course where, like I said, it's stretched out, it's self-paced, it's 50 some hours of content where it's always just constantly learning, and it's more about the information.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a great answer. Like, obviously, I can't go inside those people's minds and see like what their true motivation is. And like, even if they are, like, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say like that's not their like intention. Even if they are, like, I feel like to sell like that, you have to be. If you're selling a product, you yourself are not convinced that your product is worth it, like you're not going to
True.
sell very much. You know what I
Very
mean?
true.
Like you're not going to put that speed concepts course out if you don't feel like it's actually valuable enough for people to like give you their money to have that. You know what I mean? So
Fair.
it's the same. It's kind of the same concept, just on a larger scale, and like
Yeah.
that's like how they make their money. You know what I mean? I guess like you got to look at it through that lens as well, I think.
That's
So,
true. If anybody
you
does
know,
want the Speed Concepts course, it's the link tree is in my bio of my Instagram, which if you go into Bev Boys, you'll be able to find it on there as
yep.
well. So
Buy stuff
if
from
anyone's
Brian.
buy stuff, buy a t-shirt too from bevboys.com.
That's
Um,
right.
but I guess you're right. Like there is like a certain effect of you need to be able to, you need to believe in it to sell it, but
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I just go back to, and I shouldn't, but I just go back to remember when Advocare was like a big thing?
Vaguely, yes.
Yeah, it had a
Let me
flash
do
in the
it.
pan, and
Advocare.
it was just supplements. It was like, oh, I use this as an energy drink instead, and it's like it was basically a pre-workout powder
Oh,
that had nothing in it but
Spark.
caffeine. Yep, but
That's
it
what
was
it
like
was.
I feel like every one of my football coaches in college was like, I do Advocare. Do you guys want to do Advocare? It's
Oh,
safe for athletes. I'm like,
and that it was like a multi-level marketing type deal.
yeah, and I was like, I saw right through that immediately, and I'm like, like trying to even talk to them, that's like, dude, like, how much of that did you buy? And they're like, well, I bought 100 tubs because I like it so much, but then I can sell it. And I'm like, so they guaranteed that you were gonna buy 100 tubs, and then whether you make your money or not or back, they know that they sold you 100 tubs. But you know what I mean? It's almost to that extent of like, do some of these people brainwash themselves of this is what I truly believe, even though they don't necessarily really believe in it, because now that there's like, in a sense, a little bit of skin in the game and like their livelihoods on the line, they're like, I have to get this sold. I have to do more. So now it's because the money is influencing that and their opinions, it's less about the information that they're giving and more so about getting other people in, getting more people in and turning it into this, kind of a cult.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird thing to conceptualize. I know, like what I'm saying genuinely sounds so stupid. Like hearing it, like looking at my face in the camera and hearing me say it. But to a certain extent, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what it comes out to me. And I've leaned so much more on like continuing education more towards something that's not associated with a, in a sense, a certification of some sorts. It's
Mm-hmm.
more so like a book or, a podcast or something like that to where the value is in the education and what they felt like they needed to get out versus there is now a certification and all these benefits if you buy this,
Mm-hmm.
and it becomes less about the information and more of the add-ons. You get this
Right.
towel and this t-shirt that says FRC or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, way to send us down a rabbit hole of a rant, but
Yeah. Sorry about that. I just thought I'd touch on that. There's just so many of them. I mean, like Goda is another one that people are talking about too, and it's like
see, I think
Goda.
GOAT is almost like a cult because people, they can't concept. It always comes down to, and they only use injury patterns, quote unquote, of people who have gotten injured.
Right, and
They've never made a prediction that ended up being right. They always grab it once it occurs, and it's like, and then they scan to see one thing, and they're like, "That's why." Yeah, fucking hindsight's 2020, dog. If I bent my knee the wrong way, it's probably not going to go well. I don't think the fact that my feet don't inwardly invert and I don't, like that's not a thing.
yeah, and like the thing is too is there's stuff you can take from all of them. Like I said, like I think
Mm-hmm.
there's stuff where it's like, okay, that could be good. That could be good in a prep before a training session, or that could be good, but it's just never the whole. Like people aren't selling courses on like, hey, good strength training. You should do it.
But like, it's always associated with like guarantees, like no more pain, no injuries. Like that's a go to one. Like it's no more pain and injuries because it's evidence based. But
Mm,
but that's the other hard part is like they cherry pick. We've talked about cherry picking evidence. We talked about literally on the book review of like Harka, you know, we just talked about this. How much of this is that into the same extent where they're going to hypothesize after the results are known. Like they looked at probably, 15 different athletes or whatever who had a knee injury or an ankle injury or whatever. And then they just searched and searched and searched until they saw what they were looking for versus,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, this one was a contact ACL because he took a helmet to the knee. This one was a fatigued player with high chronic workload. Like none of those things matter. It all comes down to this very simplistic one answer. It's never the multitude of or multifactorial of shit that went into that injury. Like I remember what was his name when he was a San Francisco 49er. He's a linebacker. Was that Trey
So he's
Greenlaw?
ruptured his Achilles in the Super Bowl when he was,
Yeah.
what was it, the false step?
Yeah, he hit a little false step. And it had nothing to do with the fact that they had just had the longest season out of any NFL team, and he had played 92% of snaps on defense.
Yep, and there was the whole thing about, we should train. What was it? Athletes should train on their toes or some shit like that.
Yeah.
To like,
and it's like,
yeah, people jumped on that one.
They jumped on it, and it's like, dude, this was such a weird injury to where he was chronically high fatigue, extremely long season, the body's wearing down, just all these other, and we don't know how they're training. Number one, they could be doing some of that stuff, and this could have happened despite it. But because they don't come out there and say, I'm part of this occult kind of tribalistic training structure, they assume it's never been done. You can take pieces and apply it. It doesn't have to mean it's the only thing you do. The other thing is, dude, he's an older individual in a sense in professional sports. There could have been thousands of times that someone rolled up on his ankle and had structural change to the muscular tissue or the tendon in some way, shape, or form that weakened the structure just over time.
Mm-hmm.
The playing surface, the cleat type, all these things, they play factors. And it's insane. It is clinically insane to say it's because they didn't do this.
Right. What was the other one? Tyrese Halliburton when he ruptured his Achilles in the finals. It's like, it's the finals. Like, again, long season, high workload guys playing every day. And then there was the big thing about like
on short rest.
And like, what was the thing was he, don't quote me on this. I want to say like he had like some calf like tightness or something going into that game, but it's like, are you going to not play your best player in Game 7 of the NBA Finals? I don't know. I don't know whose decision that was. And it's like the people that are involved, like whether it's sports med, sports performance, like those people at that level aren't going to put the players in a bad position, like knowingly. Like it's not like they're like, like they did this, they put them in a bad spot. Like they probably felt like shit when that happened.
100%.
But at the end of the day, like it's not. But people were quick to jump on the fact that like, this is why you need to train this way. I know. I also happen to sell a program that actually fits that perfectly. So link in bio.
Exactly. Like
how convenient.
Like we talked about
way
these,
to
like,
exploit someone's injury for your financial gain.
But that's the other thing is like, we talk about predatory marketing. That's it right there. Is now you're striking off of the fear of somebody who doesn't want it to happen. But it's in a sense, it's almost like I said, a freak injury because there's measurables that can acute to chronic, or workload capacities are incredibly high, whatever it is, high stress. All these things play roles, travel, lack of sleep, lack of nutrition, just from the fact of unavailability, even though they are millionaires. When you put in time constraints, it's like, how much can they really eat or recover? When you're doing that, you're not giving the chance to fully recover. So you have unrecovered athletes just kind of essentially like, it's the man outside the fucking arena, man. Like you're not in it. You don't get to be armchair quarterback and say it's this, it's that. You're not in that. It's not your place.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to say Sammy Sosa's, sneezing back spasms when he had a sneeze attack in like 2004 for the Cubs? It's because he didn't train on his toes. Now he's got spine issues. He had a fucking sneeze attack. and he was on steroids. Like, dude, I'm sorry. That's
uh,
probably, he was so strong. He threw his back out because he had like 22 sneezes. By the way, I'm selling a back extension program. You should all do 45-degree GHDs. You know what I mean?
that is how it goes, though. That is.
But that's exactly. You don't want to end up like him. Well, I've got a program for you, and it's just 3x10 back extensions. It's never a revolutionary program.
The
But
old
like,
sneeze attack.
yeah, or like, who was the hockey player that took a skate to the neck? Do you remember that? It was a goalie.
Yeah. That you can't plan for that type of stuff, though.
But I mean, that's.
I mean,
The
shoot,
likely-
there's been a lot of like freak injuries where it's just like you can't plan for that. You know what I mean?
But like catching
Like,
a
who was it?
getting cut in the neck from a game where you play with literal blades on your feet and fall
Yeah.
on a slippery surface. That's about as common, and I mean, or like as the likelihood of that is in statistical analysis, you're probably more likely due to the environment to get cut somewhere on your body from a game where you're going to be slipping, falling, and running into each other, and they fight and they body check each other. You're probably more likely to catch a cut or something, even deep.
Mhm.
You know, if we crucify it or classify it as like a crucial injury, that's more likely to happen than some of these other ones. But like,
Yeah.
that's just it. Like, you can't plan for that. What are you gonna do? I have this armor skin program. Link in bio.
Yeah. Java Chamberlain, that's who it was. Jumping on a trampoline and like destroyed his ankle. Like just stuff like that. That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah. Severe compound dislocation of his ankle while jumping on a trampoline with his son.
The only one that's like,
Sammy Sosa sprained a ligament from sneezing too violently.
are you on like weird injuries?
Yeah. This is a rabbit hole episode, folks. I'm sorry if there's not a lot of good information here, but this is how we roll.
But like some of these, it's like the only one you can probably look into as like an entire sport that doesn't train always the best would probably be, and I say sport, it's more sports entertainment, but I would probably say like WWE.
Yeah, you get fucked up from doing that.
Because
Have you heard what was it? It was like John Cena versus The Rock. That was The Rock's like last fight when John Cena like took the belt and he got like really fucked up from that fight. I think he's like talked about that before. He's like,
How
yeah,
many
I felt it like right away, and then I had to finish the fight.
How about Vince McMahon double torn quads, couldn't stand up when he from literally the same thing as like the same video of like when the Olympic lifter like tries to slam the the 400-pound clean against his quads to like get it up. He literally had the same injury. It was basically a acute rupture because he hit the edge of the ring, and it's like those are freak ones. Like you can't account for those, but like a torn pec is very common in WWE because of the weird arm angles, and it's like a lot of their training is made for them on a more physique level.
Yeah, just to look huge.
Yeah, and I mean, in all likelihood, there's probably androgynous hormones and steroids that go into it.
Yeah.
So tissue and ligaments get weaker.
Yeah, they ain't doing Isos. They're straight bodybuilding in that bitch.
Yeah, but like they look sick. But
they do.
To an extent, it's like how much of that is like because they do so much in-ring stuff. Like they're not probably doing a ton of plyometrics to prepare that tissue outside of like jumping off the turnbuckle. So it's like, you look at that and you're like, okay, there's probably if there was like a league wide initiative or like a legitimate strength professional to do that, like they might have a little bit more resiliency in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But because even then, like you look at like some of these dudes that left like collegiate wrestling or collegiate athletics and became WWE wrestlers, like most of them, like they do bodybuilding for sure, but like they still train a lot like athletes in a sense. So like maybe that's one of the things that you look to of like, okay, there's an industry to penetrate, pause, but like you can't. It's unfair to the people who have skin in the game and they're training these athletes and how they see fit. And I disagree with a lot of people's training methodologies, but I can't say it's because you didn't do one thing. The
No, it's never
overarching
one
picture.
thing.
It's never one thing. Now I'm seeing just crazy, crazy injury,
Yeah,
crazy.
you remember when Kevin Hart tore his like ab and both his like quads or whatever doing the 40-yard dash against Stephen Ridley?
Yeah,
I mean, that one's just like, hey, what is that Denzel Washington quote? You're either trained or untrained.
yeah.
You were untrained, Kevin. Sorry.
Then you think of like the nuts ones that like could have never like Kevin Ware for Florida
Yeah,
Gators. Just literally, or not? It was from Louisville, wasn't he?
Louisville. Yep,
Yeah,
March
Louisville.
Madness, Louisville.
Just, I mean, literally, just having his leg explode on a smaller jump,
Yep.
literally just exploding.
Yeah, you can't plan that stuff.
Or even Jason Pierre-Paul with a firework because he didn't do his bucket of rice.
Yeah, no, he was just stupid and blew his finger off with a firework. That's just what happens.
I have to wait to say this. He blew his shit smooth off. Ugh. Now that we just extended that rant, this
Yeah, let's pivot here. This is a good point to pivot.
is a good pivot point. We're on a
Yeah,
pivot week.
yeah. Let's talk. This is one I've been wanting to talk about for a little bit and just kind of get some thoughts in the air. But I think training residuals is something that I'd say a lot of coaches, most coaches definitely consider
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to like, okay, strength will diminish after X amount of days, give or take, if you don't train it. Speed will start to diminish after X amount of days, give or take, if you don't train it. And usually what we'll look at is that those training residuals were formulated by Vladimir Ishrin, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And but how accurate do you think those actually are? How accurate do you think those actually are? Because I was thinking about this. Um, what was the population that he like did those on?
Yeah. And
Like
I don't know what population he did it on, to be honest. But
like
I'll be super candid with you. I think speed is correct. Like 2 to 5 days, like you should. Plus, and I think it's like it's like 3 days plus or minus two in a sense or something like that.
yeah, or like 5 days
Is
plus or minus two, like five to
yeah,
7 days essentially, or
yeah.
three
You
to
got to
seven days. That would be
your goal is like 5 plus or minus 3. Like you got to train it once a week. I think that's pretty accurate. Like if you don't
yeah.
now, I think if you have a 1 2 week period, I don't think you truly diminish in massive
Hmm.
factors where you're on a deload or something.
What does
Um,
that mean though? Is that like
does
touching
it
top speed every week, or can it be just like
a
an
residual?
ACell
Yeah,
exposure? Is it more about the
intent or the
intent to move quick, or like the actual velocity? Like, can I do
see
a resisted sprint with 20% of my body weight? I'm trying to go as fast as I can, but I'm really only reaching whatever 75% of my top speed or whatever it is, or do I actually have to reach, like, if I can run 20 miles an hour, do I have to
reach
hit
19.
that? Yeah, do I have to hit that 18.5, that 19 miles an hour? Otherwise, like, because that's where I'm like, because think about like the training we did at Elon, the training we did at Simpson, the training we do like now, it's like we're not ripping,
All out
max
sprints.
velocity flies early off season. One, because it's not like there's more important things to focus on, but we end up, guys don't come back like slower. Like obviously you work back into things, but it's not all of a sudden, it's not like, we might do a 10. Guys don't get slower.
I
That's the thing. That's the thing I've been thinking about. Like, is it the intent to move? Is it just like is it more of like just a high threshold motor unit recruitment thing, or is it a literal like, do you have to expose to the literal velocity of sprinting in order to say like, okay, I touched that residual. I'm not going to decay if I don't hit it in 3 to 7 days.
See, that's the other thing is like, especially when it comes to speed, speaking from a track perspective, I've done, a week or two off with with the girls, and we don't lose a ton. Some of these girls, like, they take that 2 weeks off and that body recovers. And it's like, maybe
More
if you're
fresh.
under, yeah, they're more fresh. Like, maybe if you're under fatigue, you need to have some kind of intentful residual. And that's a matter of, like I said, like you had mentioned, like, load up 20% of the body weight and only do X amount of meters where it's 15. So they're at most unresisted. They're probably going to hit 85% of that max speed. Like, it's very unclear because it's a very simplistic nature in a chart, right? And like the definition of speed here is just like a lot of times like it's paired, on that like second piece of like all out sprinting in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, Zach Dakin has like the physiological response on his version of the chart, and it's improved neuromuscular interactions and motor control, increased anaerobic power. It's like, okay, so something that would fit into that category would be a resisted sprint. Like, you just need to be like, this is a good marquee to be training sprints regularly. And I think if you look at like the dichotomy or the spectrum of people training where they just negate sprinting, the goal of this piece is to more so like have a concurrent model to where they're going to be training it more regularly. And I think that's a good thing. I think when people are like, well, I haven't done an all out sprint, I'm going to detrain that. That's where it
Mm-hmm.
gets iffy. Now, the one I will say, I guess the two, repeat power or repeat sprint ability and the oxidative energy system or the aerobic energy system, I don't think, I think that is way fucking high for aerobic. There's been times where I don't train aerobic for a month. I can't step in and do the same thing that I
I was
did.
saying the same thing. Like, I'm thinking about this from like when I was running in college, and like there's a reason why like cross country runners, like, they don't really have an off season. It's not like you can only take so much time off. Like, it was usually like, whatever, after cross country, after indoor, after outdoor, it was like, for some people it was as short as like 5 days. It was never more than like
10.
2 weeks at the absolute most. At the absolute most, and maybe that was like after outdoor. Um, but it's like maybe like 5 to 10 days you could take off, because it's like you'll start to, it goes like quick, and obviously
Mm-hmm.
that's just like running. But the thing with running to like a big extent, which like for distance runners, it's like, okay, the people that can put in more miles over time and stay healthy, like, granted you're still doing like more like speed based workouts, those people are gonna like improve at a higher rate than people that are doing like less mileage or like just running less weeks out of the year. If I got a guy that's like running 50 out of the 52 weeks versus someone that's running 45 out of the 52 weeks, like, that's a big difference.
I
Yeah, I
agree with you.
agree. I think that shit goes quick.
Maximal strength, I think, could be,
It's the same as,
I think that's, I think you could go upwards of 60 fucking days.
yeah, it depends on how, are we talking about like, okay, do I have to match my 1 RM?
I don't
Like, I
even know
think
if
you can get
it's,
within like 90%. Like, yeah.
I don't even think that. We talk about, rate of force development and total work. We've talked about compensatory acceleration a lot. I've gotten stronger and then remaxed out 3 months later and improved my max this last time on my front squat from literally working at 55 to 65%. If I use chains, is like basically it was like at most 70% of my max,
Hmm.
right? At most, because I was pausing or taking things out and just moving with high intent.
Hmm.
And it just,
High threshold motor unit recruitment, more so
exactly,
than just load on the bar.
exactly. And it's like, I feel like the maximal strength is assuming every speed is moving the same, every bar is moving the same speed.
I think it's also like assuming, like when I picture maximal strength, I picture like, all right, eyeball popping 1 RM essentially, like,
Yeah,
and does it have to be 1 RM, or can it be okay? I moved 85% of my max for, at X velocity, or like I hit it for 6 reps, and before I could only hit it for 4. That's stronger.
exactly. Yeah, it is. Whether it's, we get into the, strength endurance aspect or whatever you want to call it. I don't think maximal strength needs to be touched as much. I think maximal strength is very important. So like
Mm-hmm.
let's not conflate the two for anyone who's watching this. But I don't think you have to touch a max strength every 30, roughly every 30 to 35 days. But I think aerobic endurance is something that motor ability that has to be touched on far more. I think that needs to be like 14 plus or minus 3
Mm-hmm.
in all reality in order to retain the same capacity. And when we talk about capacity, I could, I could go into difference of just being able to grind that out or looking good while we do it. Those are distinctly different things as well. And I think that just pushes aerobic endurance to the lower end of that, near strength endurance, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I do think like glycolytic endurance, like that we think of like repeat power, RSA. I think is very quick to attain and very quick to go. I think more so that's like if you want to maintain the same level of repeat power, repeat sprint, like it's got to be done like around like every 12 days, 12 plus or minus 3, 12 to 15 days or 9 to 15 days. If that's your sport, I don't think it belongs in the program all the time for every single person. I think it's vastly different, but it's very quick to attain, and very quick to diminish,
Mm-hmm.
which is okay. I think in the fact of like you do one cycle with it and you're like, okay, that's what I want to focus on. You boom, it's kind of back in there. But
I also think there's a relationship between like training age and the residual. Like I think the
yeah,
longer you've trained, the longer for certain things, the longer you can go without like touching a certain thing and maintain. Like for example, and this goes with like skill too. Like I played a lot of basketball. I rarely play now, but I can still pick up a ball and dribble it at a certain level that like people that didn't play a lot of basketball when they were growing up can, because I played a lot. So I have that like quote unquote residual, and maybe that's like a bad example, but like I think a beginner or like a novice trainee, they need to touch that stuff, whether it's thinking of like in strength terms, they need to touch that stuff a little more often. Probably because like, okay, can't talk about a strength residual if you're not really very strong at all to begin with. Like what is the residual if there's nothing there?
yeah,
Versus like a more trained person, they get a little more advanced. We talk about like long-term athletic development. You maybe only need to touch like a heavier strength stimulus above like 80-85% once every 4 weeks if you're going off that chart, and maybe focus on a little bit more of the repeat power stuff, versus someone that's not quite as trained. I think they lose those abilities a little more quickly, but there's also a lower threshold of like okay, you can get really good progress with those people and like improve strength with only working at theoretically like 60 to 70% of their max, depending on what they're doing, just because they're a lot more sensitive to that stimulus. I don't know what you think about that. I feel like the training age has an effect on that.
I think it plays a large role in that.
Uh, and
Um,
maybe some more than others. Like I don't know if that extrapolates to all of the qualities, but
Probably, I
I
mean, you make a good point. You know, it probably plays a little bit more so on like I don't want to say like the more general qualities, but like you said, you grab a 15-year-old who's never strength trained in their life. What are they hanging on to? They might not have to touch it at all. Like they could touch it once every so often, and
mhm.
it's like, well, you not only that, but not even just training age, but just age in general. It's like you have hormonal changes. Like they might not touch anything and they get stronger, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't know the coordination aspect of sprinting, but they get better because then all they've done is like ace skips, dribbles, and drilling. But now they've gotten better because they just figured out how to move their body.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can argue on the flip side, well, they had the strength, they had the speed residual, and their potential was higher, but they never touched it. Well, if they never touched it, then it's never been real.
Right. I think it's
You
also
know,
what you train for too. Like,
yeah. I think that that's where I was going to go with this. So I think you're going to love this part. But then we talk about like context specific, right? What is speed in baseball?
some people, I mean, the measurement, obviously, like the combine, we're going to look at the 60-yard dash, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
But home to first, that's important.
Mm-hmm.
It's never truly like top speed, I guess. It's
Okay.
more of like, okay, home to first. How many feet per second? How many feet per second are you getting? Are you talking about like what's like fast in baseball, or like what am I like? What do we?
What are you just looking at for speed? What's the fastest thing in baseball?
I would say home to first, like a home through first, trying to beat out a infield single, or in the outfield,
Okay.
ball in the gap, or probably coming in on a ball to make a diving catch. That's probably going to be the fastest. You might see a little if you're getting like a first to home, or a triple home to third, something like that.
Now, what if I said something that may infuriate you? What if
Tell
I
me.
said that the fastest thing in baseball is the ball?
Yes, okay,
Okay.
that is true.
The interactions with the ball. Is speed training not throwing, in a sense, at some point? Because you're training the body to move extremely fast with high motor unit recruitment in a specific pattern, and how fast you can get it to wire and how fast you can throw or hitting. So does now hitting practice, or if a pitcher's throwing bullpens, does that now become speed training? Right? Even though it doesn't look like sprinting,
Hmm.
but
I see where you're going.
the physiological response to the body is a very high start stop, high intensity motor unit recruitment in an alactic fashion.
You do have a point.
We talk about stress on the body, and that the body doesn't, it just knows that it's under stress. The body doesn't always know. I mean, it might know the difference between ground interactions and what muscular tissues are firing or movement patterns specifically, but from a physiological perspective, it's really hard for the human body to discern from a jump to a 3-step A cell to a pitch, or if you're taking a swing on a bat.
That is true. Yeah, I mean, like the central fatigue. No, I think the mechanical fatigue obviously is going to be a little bit different, like just different motion. I guess to that point, like, would you still do traditional quote unquote speed training? Do you still why do we still sprint baseball players if they're getting if that can be considered velocity training?
Mm-hmm.
Which my
So
argument would be it's still like a good stimulus, and obviously like sprinting is part of the game even for like a pitcher at some point. Um, but that is a good point. Like I think obviously like mechanical stress is a little more like localized. Like pitchers don't get injured there. Usually they're getting shoulder and elbow injuries from pitching, as opposed to sometimes you see like hamstring strains from pitchers, but a lot less common. But yeah, when it's like coming to central fatigue, there's a lot of things you can do to create central fatigue. It's not necessarily like one stimulus. That could be sprinting. That could be, throwing a baseball as hard as you can. That could be an overcoming ISO. That could be
yeah,
swinging a bat as hard as you can.
and in the same sense, some of these qualities blend together, right? We talk about our speed residual, and you talk about 20% of the body weight. That first step, overcoming the inertia, is that's still centrally fatiguing, right? Right? We'd consider, but in a sense. It's a little bit less speed than it is maybe more like a rate of force development or like a moment of momentum, i.e., strength.
Yeah, that's one thing I've thought of too is like what's more stressful? A heavy resisted sprint or like a unresisted sprint? I think they're stressful in different ways.
Yeah. And we always talk about these training residuals from, and I use this as almost like a little bit of a hot term, but we talk about a physiological response, right? But physiologically, a central fatigue or a central nervous system fatigue is still physiological in a sense. It is more
Hmm.
nervous system driven, but your body is having a physiological response to that. So are we talking about this from a muscular tissue adaptation, a cellular level, and cellular adaptation, which is way harder to measure, by the way, when it comes to anything else, or more of like a systemically central nervous system fatigue, where you're
Hmm.
probably going to your measure would probably be either the outputs dropping or the subjective I'm tired.
Hmm.
All of this
Yeah,
is so up in the air.
yeah, and it's one. I feel like the you can have one of them's like a little easier to elicit, I would say too. Like
Yeah.
I can make some like it's easier to get sore than it is to like
Become physically tired.
yeah, and difference there's a distinct difference between like the mechanical fatigue and the central fatigue. Like you have the central fatigue, like you may not be like, oh shit, my chest is sore. It's like you might feel like groggy. You might just feel like you're not like fully like woken up. You just feel like you're kind of in like a fog. Versus like mechanical fatigue, you're just sore all over, but you're like, like I feel like my brain feels normal, if that makes sense.
My
That's how
body's
I
just
feel.
not doing what I want it to
Yeah,
in the way that I want it. Whereas like the central fatigue, you're like it's hard to think clearly and get these
mm-hmm.
things to occur the way
It's
that
like you
you
almost
might
have like a
process it.
governor. Like you almost have like a
Yeah.
governor on you. Um, and it's you can get one with you can get one without the other. I feel like how many
Mm-hmm.
times you see like people, I mean like bodybuilders, very muscular, but like are they going to have like the same like outputs if you do a sprint or a jump or something? Obviously they're not training for that, so there's a caveat there. But like you see people like a lot of time that have more crazy software, crazy nervous system, but not a lot of hardware, not a lot of muscle.
God, that's a
And
great way to put that.
and then the opposite, like people that have like crazy, like don't have a lot of software, but they've built a lot of hardware. That might be a topic
That's
to dive into for another episode because I think that's important because like
I
some
think
people
we
are
should write
just
that one down.
yeah,
That's
hardware versus software. It's important.
that's that's a good one, right? We do talk about sometimes like the it's all show no go or sleeper builds, things like that, where they some of these people are incredibly strong. I look at Su Bing Chan as a good example. He's for the if you look at Su Bing Chan from like a regular population perspective, he was fairly fit, but he was never like this massive hardware athlete.
Mm-hmm.
But he was one of the most wired athletes when it came to sprinting. Christian Coleman's the same way. Christian Coleman is fully a sleeper build. Love the guy. Like
Yeah,
he's an
weird
incredible athlete.
build.
But like his limbs are very wiry and like he's got a large like deltoid, don't get me wrong, but you're not gonna look at him and go, oh, that dude. You're like, oh, he's like relatively fit.
He's no Johan Blake.
Yeah, whereas Johan Blake was the complete opposite.
Yeah,
Or
jacked.
you look at like here's one for you. old school one, Dexter McCluster.
Mm.
He was a receiver, punt return specialist for the Kansas City Chiefs back in the day. When he was at Ole Miss, he was very just kind of wiry, and then he got a little bit of muscular definition. Same thing with like DeAnthony Thomas.
Yep.
Those types of guys, they were very software kind of oriented versus like a hardware guy being, like Derrick Henry. He's got hardware and software, but or like a James Harrison, very hardware oriented. And it's like, I think that's two types of bodies where like I think sometimes that's when you'll kind of see training differ.
I agree.
We always talk about wide versus narrow ISA, who's going to be more predominant towards what kind of training, expansion versus, compression, that kind of stuff. But I think it's more so on like, or like an endomorph and ectomorph. Maybe this is a little bit of like the endomorph, ectomorph kind of deal here, but sometimes like that, some of that stuff is just, that will be more telling when you just take a quick eye test, and I think that'll play effect into the training residuals as well. Like a Dexter McCluster is probably going to be a little bit more predisposed to losing out on maybe like muscular endurance or max strength because he's wired internally to just be naturally quick, and maybe he doesn't hit the top speed, but he's going to be fast enough through the elongation of that residual period that he's still going to be wicked fucking fast, and he's going to be able to retain a lot of it versus like a James Harrison could probably take off 3 months of strength training and he is still going to be almost just as strong, if not just as strong as he was before, if he was like solely working on aerobic fitness and sprinting, because they always influence each other. And that's another thing of this, and maybe I'm just hopping around a bunch, but like we always look at these in isolated capacities. We never, in this training residual, it's never addressed that like sometimes when you sprint, the way you're sprinting or the way you're performing speed training may influence max strength. Or sometimes when the way you're doing aerobic training can influence repeat sprint or repeat power or whichever way you look at it. They're always in these individual capacities will never influence each other, and they should all belong in your program in X amount of days. Mm-hmm. That's a fallacy that I think that we start to lean on a little too hard when it comes to training and building our programs, to where people start to freak out that it's not complete. Well, it kind of is in a sense. If your first 2 steps of every, tempo rep is an all-out sprint, and then you're kind of just getting into that tall and smooth, you're microdosing in a sense, like speed training. I don't think it's enough to, truly influence capacity or like top speed thresholds, but it's going to help. I don't think it's going to hurt. Same thing when you do resisted sprinting, you're probably influencing a little bit of max strength or at least repeat power or repeat strength or strength endurance in order to repeat those reps. And if you do a lot of sprinting, you're probably going to get a little bit better at max strength just from like a software perspective, if we use that term. Mm-hmm. Vice versa, if you do if you're really good at like at RFD because of how you strength train, you're probably going to be good on that initial takeoff of a sprint. So like all these capacities we always want to look at,
we want to segment them.
We want to segment them, yeah, and
it helps us better conceptualize and understand how to train, how things work, which is good. Like if we didn't do that, we wouldn't have as much of a clue as we do now of how to do things. But they don't work in isolation.
Exactly,
is the main thing here.
Exactly, and this is shout out Cam Joss, but he did a talk a couple years ago at CVASPs, and he talked about a complicated versus complex system. In a complicated system, there's all these individual parts, and it's this big, like, this and then this and then this, and it's just, you're looking at everything and it's overwhelming. And then you look at a complex system, and it's your strength, which influences your aerobic, which influences this, which influences this, but then your speed, which all these cross, and the complex just looks like this big interwoven web. They all interact with each other 24/7. So it's it's an incomplete thought to train them as an isolated movement or an isolated adaptation. I don't think it's fair, and I think it almost it doesn't necessarily disprove, but I think it influences what should and shouldn't be on in what capacity in that residual training chart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Deep thoughts, ladies and gentlemen.
By the way, just so anyone's aware, like this is how we talk to each other too. When we just have a normal conversation.
Yeah, it's very sporadic. Sorry if you were looking for something a little more organized.
We just went very complex.
Yeah, we went from talking about Jabba Chamberlain destroying his ankle on a trampoline to that. We have a wide range, ladies and gentlemen. So
Dexter McCluster, software oriented.
Yep.
He's a tech bro.
Yep.
Should we get a review?
Wrap this bad boy up. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this Alani, not great.
Ooh.
I'm not a huge fan. I feel like I'm usually pretty generous, but I'm gonna have to go harsh on this one. I probably would not pick it up again unless I was in like a super pinch. Flavor, not great. Pretty like basic formula, as you know. It was free, so I give it a little bit more there, but I got to give it like I'll go 4.8. Go 4.8. I'm harsh today, so I do not recommend the Alani Hawaiian shaved ice. You can do better.
Going back to the Ghost America Pop, I believe I gave it originally like a 7.4. That's my rating, and I'm sticking to it. Didn't wow me as much the second time.
Yep.
Orange Cream.
Stick to your guns.
Orange Cream had a good fight back into Grace's. I still think a bomb pop flavor is a little played out. Still good. I'm gonna finish this. I'm gonna drink this through the rest of the next probably 10 minutes when we hang up on the show. But I still think that that's where it should firmly stay, and that's where most America, red, white, and blue, bomb pop, all these type of flavors should kind of stay. They're okay. I wouldn't go get cases of them.
There you have it, folks. Thank you for tuning into the show. As always, make sure to leave us a review, subscribe, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It really does help the show. DevBoys.com if you want to help support the boys with some merch. DevBoys.tv on Instagram. You'll be able to find our personal pages on there as well if you want to check out some training content and whatnot. As always, thank you for tuning in for the show, and we'll see you next time. Peace.